Good morning to you. Today is Saturday, June 28th. It's about 6:45 in the morning. The house is just starting to wake up, so I need to get through this before my door starts getting knocked on, before people start calling my name, and the kids want breakfast, and, you know, normal suburban life kind of wakes up after I've woken up. So, today is going to be a different edition of my little Joe's book review. And I think that's because of what I felt about this book and where I'm going to go with it. So it's not going to be as peppy as I've tried to make other ones in the past, but I'm going to get through what I can get through. Personally, I also need like another win in my category. You can see behind me, I've kind of like cleaned up a little bit in here, but I've got new piles of crap I need to address. So I need to get the ball rolling. On top of that, I've got, including this one, 5 books I finished I'd love to do reviews on, but I got to get my notes together. I got to go back through them. I got to get the other graphics I might throw up there. So, producing these things does take a little bit of time on top of, let's just say, all the other hobbies I have in my life, including, my studio where I record, which I actually recorded some more this morning, and editing and father, husband, cleaning the house, taking care of things. Hey, we spend the time with the things that are important to us, and those are the things that proceed and progress with life. So, by doing this one, I'll then do the next task and the next one, and hopefully I'll, like I said, get the ball rolling and accomplish much. So, without further ado, let me tell you about, this is my 16th installment in the splatter western genre that I'm going to discuss today. And, any of you out there on the interwebs that have been following, you know exactly kind of what you're in for today. If you're new to the channel and you don't know the concept of a splatter western, welcome. Brief synopsis. Let me try that one more time. A brief synopsis of how I got onto this. I literally was looking on eBay for something else called Death's Head, and I stumbled upon this because Death's Head Press produces these novels. They're a division of Dead Sky Publishing. And I saw this, I was like, oh my god, what is this? And it turns out to be Western. It turns out to be horror. It's got some macabre, some gore, some supernatural or magic or what have you in that realm of the mysterious. So I was like, this is interesting. Got on board. I bought them all, and I'm slowly, one by one, going through them. That being said, let me dive into it. So a lot of this story, again, Cruel Angels Past Sundown by Hailey Piper. Okay? The story sets up pretty quickly and pretty easily. I'm not disparaging, but pretty easily. You've got a farm, a homestead, a farmstead, whatever you want to call it. And all of a sudden, this woman, this one right here on the cover, walks along the dusty road towards it. She's naked, she's pregnant, she's full of dirt and almost like blood and gore, and she's carrying with her a cavalry saber. And she's not saying a word, she's just walking along, walking down the road. So, the woman of the homestead sees her, takes pity on her. Oh, come inside, little one, let me take care of you, tries to clean her up, tries to feed her, tries to put like a blanket on her to kind of cover her up and clothe her, hoping that the baby inside of her is not being harmed with her walking the way she is. And she even gives her lodging for the night. And the woman doesn't say a word during all of this. And then it's like, hopefully we're doing the Lord's work and let's see what happens. But all of a sudden, late that night or early the next morning, it turns out that this woman, who they just call Saber because she's unnamed, pretty much like rapes and kills the husband. Uses that cavalry sword and just guts him open, privates the nose. And she's even licking up the blood with this like long demonic tongue. So it's like, Jesus Christmas, what the hell's going on here? And it sets the stage for what's going to go on in this woman's life for the next pages that remain. It turns out one of these things that she was kind of unable to conceive children. And her husband was resigned to that fact. And in fact, they even have there's a woman named Gloria, works in the whorehouse in town, in the saloon, who takes care of both of them. And she becomes like a nexus for their love, and it maintains their love with each other as well. So, if there's anything that goes wrong in this woman's life, she's going to go see Gloria. Well, she does just that. She flees the homestead after Saber starts trying to get on her a little bit, and she runs into a priest outside whose name is Balthazar. And Balthazar is pontificating in that Western preacher way, which I guess we all know and love because you see it in almost every Western story there is. Real Old Testament fire and wrath of God kind of stuff. And he does make mention that the woman, Saber, is his daughter, and it's his grandson that she's carrying. And, or maybe it's a son, who knows? Depends how you verbiage it. And he starts going against the woman with what's called a crucifix dagger. It's literally a dagger that has a crucifix on it, which, by the way, is the reason why in the T to pass sundown, it looks like a cross. So there's Balthazar up there. This is the knife he's kind of using here. Stabs her and kind of like disembowels her, and then walks upon. But she doesn't die. And there's like a dust storm that blows in. So stumbling around, she happens upon a beast of burden, which is actually one of her own bulls that got loose in the pen. And she scrambles up on top of it and just has it go its own way. And of course, it makes its way back to the saloon in town. And you get all your nice details of what happens later on. Because obviously, Balthazar and Saber make their way to the town, and this woman's hysterical and needs medical attention, and she's trying to say, beware these people, but they're not really key on just bewaring people immediately. But you have, the makings of evil comes to town, and what are these people going to do about it? Again, once the preacher gets into the saloon, you got more blood and guts, more stabbing, more eviscerations. You got Saber doing her thing with her sword as people come upon her in a very, almost formulaic, oh, are you okay? And slice, stab. So, and you start to learn, the more Balthazar gives you more of the plot with his expositions, that, this baby inside of her might be like a second coming in a way. And it's very important this baby be born of her specifically, and they go into some details about that. And the preacher himself, and maybe even a little bit of Saber, has almost inhuman qualities to them. Whereas the townsfolk retaliate of his killing them with the crucifix dagger, you can see he's not really being harmed as much by their bullets and their knives and what have you. Almost like he's healing from it in a way. So you get that influx of the magical and the mystique that happens with these novels in this genre. In fact, there's even a little subplotish type of thing too, where one of the guys in town actually has like a Confederate Gatling gun in his shed or something like that, and they'll pull it out and they actually use it on Balthazar in a very great action sequence. But being as inhuman as he is, it only does so much to him. Although I can't say him being shot to shit is putting it mildly. And this is where this video is going to turn. It's also where the story turns. So let's just say it gets very surreal, dreamlike. It almost gets into like a purgatory-esque landscape, almost like you're on some psilocybin-induced milieu. And it's kind of where I stopped. Okay? I didn't stop reading. I read it all the way through because I'm that kind of person. But this is where the start of the conclusion and the third act takes place. And we're talking about maybe, a better part of maybe like the third is left in the book when this all happens. Because you have the escape of the girl from the saloon, from the town. You got Balthazar and Saber coming after her. You got Gloria making her appearance in her own glorious nature. And I don't know what to say about it exactly. It's either too well written for my white male heterosexual mind to possibly comprehend, or it was so uninteresting, ridiculous, that it was unable to grasp my attention, or my even desire to find out how it ends, or even care for that matter. I was getting to the point where I just wanted to get to the last page. So what I'll say is that Hailey Piper had successfully wrote her story. She wrote the story she wanted to tell. And I believe I just wasn't the audience for that story, which is totally okay. I mean, as it is, Cruel Angels Past Sundown is my 15th splatter western book that I've read. It's my 19th story if you count the 4-issue comic book series that came out. So it wouldn't be fair of me to expect every one of these stories to have the same steps occur or to have the same outcomes occur. This is a genre. It's not a writer telling stories the way I like him to write, or her, by the way. It's not always going to be about revenge and the magic and the triumph, or how do they get through this kind of a thing. I mean, Hailey, here I am talking about her like we're on a first name basis. I don't intend to be so familiar about it. But Hailey went down her pseudo-religious path with this story. And like I said, there was like a second coming nature to the pregnancy and what happens at the conclusion. But it's set in an Old West style. And I have to confess that going angelic is actually up my alley. The ingredients of the recipe that made this story should have been totally me. And one day I'm probably going to have to reread this, knowing where it's going to turn, but seeing it with better eyes and possibly even a better patience. So I do enjoy when you bring in biblical and angelic and that kind of things into a story. I usually find them very interesting and very clever. But when she turned the story the way she did in this story, and let me pause here for a second just to iterate or reiterate, this is not a truly worthless aspect of the story. Not by a long shot. And I think in this instance, what I could say is my opinion might very much be my own fault. I didn't take the chapters for a ride like I believe I normally do. Perhaps I subconsciously just didn't give it a chance. From the moment that I sensed it went off the rails, I was like, all right, you're doing your thing. I'm not along for this, but I'm going to finish the pages anyway. But going back, when she turned her story the way it did, I just stopped being interested anymore. And our main character kind of wakes up in what I alluded to before, like a purgatory-esque, white sand, salt flat, no idea how she got there, and no idea where to go, It almost seems like that last final season of Lost, when they started doing the Flash sideways. It's like, oh, you're doing these new things in the middle of finales. What the hell? And I guess because of that imagery in my mind, I was a huge fan of Lost. I felt that it was done already. And there you have it. I mean, you do have how she maneuvers in this purgatory-like world. Sounds are different, smells are different. There's nothing to see, but then as she wanders, all of a sudden, boom, there's a town or there's a whatever else. Gloria makes her appearances. Balthazar has his appearances like in the distance, like she's trying to chase him. I think the angel comes in and she actually has a dialogue with the angel. I'm going to say Gabriel. I could be completely wrong because I just forget. It could be Uriel. It could be any angel. But she actually has a dialogue with an angel directly. And then it kind of goes to its conclusion. So, again, it wasn't the story I was looking to read at the time. I have to give it a try in the future again. So I'm not even disparaging Hailey Piper in any way, shape, or form by giving what I'm saying right here now. One thing I will say is that when I do read books like these in the genre, I'm generally not even reading the back of the book to say what it's about. I try to go into it cold. I want no spoilers. I want no expectations, and let the words on the page bring me along. But if I were to read the back of this right now to you, it says, New Mexico Territory, 1882. She comes to the Klein Ranch at sunset, a strange, naked, pregnant woman dragging a cavalry saber. Annette Klein and her husband have built peace between their marriage and secret relations beyond, but their serenity dies in bloodshed tonight through a cannibalistic demon and a mad preacher. Annette barely escapes the bloodbath to the nearby town of Lowe's Bend, where she might find safety with a shotgun-toting barkeep, 2 no-nonsense boarding room ladies, and the gunslinging bounty hunter who's captured Annette's heart. But hell is at her heels. If she's going to survive until dawn, she'll have to forget everything she knows about peace and mercy, and face a hollow malevolence more ancient and ruthless than she's ever imagined. Which, by the way, is pretty decent for getting you into the overall narrative of what's going to happen. So, that's pretty much all I have for you today. Usually with the splatter westerns, I go into a whole thing regarding editing and misspellings and whatever else. The only thing I'm going to touch upon, I think, is the difference between the words breathe and breath, and whether there's an E on the end or not an E on the end. I believe that for the most part, when Hailey was writing, she used the non-E version, and I'm not sure if that quite fit. On page 94, there's a instance where it says the bending made his breath hard. Page 102, her breath hitched with every step. And 171, urged her to breathe. So I'm not sure if the spellings were perfectly aligned with what it was. It's one of those things when I came across, I kind of like stopped in the middle of the sentence, was like, is that right? I even looked it up. She may be right. It's interpretation. I think most of the time the E's versus the not E's does make a different word as you read it, but I'll leave that up to you to decide at this point. Again, short one today, not even 19 minutes right now. Thank you for listening. I actually already have the next one lined up. I have read this. I just got to write my notes, and then I'll film it. Maybe I'll do it today, if I'm lucky, and the family leaves me alone. All right. Otherwise, thank you for listening. I hope you have a glorious weekend, and you'll see me back here soon. Bye-bye now.